Many years ago, the 1960s, I remember being here with my parents and the whole family, in fact, and we had a picnic under a tree in the ground just the other side of those trees there. It's a golf course just now. I don't remember it as a golf course then. I think it was maybe just an estate with some big house. And I often wonder how we knew to have a picnic at that location, because we stayed in Partick at the time. And I suppose my dad worked in the shipyards. He worked in both Yarrow's and in John Brown's. And John Brown's used to be just over the other side of the river there. And perhaps when he worked there, he looked across the river in a spare moment and I thought, that looks quite nice over there. Maybe I'll take the family for a picnic. Or something like that. On the 24th of March 1936, the Queen Mary left her fitting out basin in John Brown's shipyard, and that basin was right beside where you can see the big crane there, the Titan crane. And she sailed slowly and majestically down the River Clyde. She was an absolutely massive ship, over 1,000 feet long, and her journey down the river was not all plain sailing. In fact, at one point she became temporarily grounded near Dalmuir and had to be kind of gently eased back on her path with a few tugs that were helping her on her journey. Her building berth, where she was constructed, was to the right of the basin that the Titan crane sits beside, and it was angled like a number of these building berths in such a manner that when she was launched, she came in this direction towards where the Blackcart River meets the River Clyde. And that was just to give her a bit of room so that she didn't start bumping off the banks of the River Clyde. Incidentally, I wasn't sure whether this was the Black Cart or the White Cart, but on looking at a map, both the Black Cart and the White Cart kind of meet just not far up there. And this very short section of both the rivers is called the Black Cart River, or water, Black Cart water, I think it is. And when she was launched some 2 years earlier in 1936, she set up something of a wave in the river that almost swamped onlookers, arranged on this side of the River Clyde on both banks at either side of the cart water here. She was just massive, and really was what you would term a superliner. And indeed, the last superliner to be built in John Brown's shipyard, the QE2, was launched in 1967. And although there was a few more ships launched after then, the QE2, as I say, was the last superliner, and it was pretty much the end of an era. If you've been following some of the videos that I do, you may know that I've already put out a video about Clydebank. It was about 4 years ago. It wasn't a great video, to be honest. It was one of the first videos that I did with a new camera. I had a selfie stick that was useless, and in the end I had to just hold the camera itself at arm's length. And I had the flu. Not that I'm making excuses or anything, because as a video it is what it is. But I felt it was time to revisit Clydebank, because in wandering around, I've just seen things happening. There's a lot of building work taking place in the town, and in many ways I just feel as if Clydebank could be finally rising from what I might term post-industrial ashes. Just here on my right hand side was the fitting out basin for both the Queen Mary and the QE2, both pretty massive liners, and you can perhaps see the little curving red brick bit at the very end there that looks as if it's been added on. And I think it probably has been added on because the basin had to be altered so that the Queen Mary would fit in and not stick out into the River Clyde just so much, because at that time there would have been lots of ships passing to and fro from backwards and forwards to Glasgow and what have you. I mean, and just looking at this, it's very hard to imagine, but in sitting here you can perhaps get an idea of just how big the Queen Mary was, because this is a long side of this basin here. and the Titan crane is just there on the other side of the basin. And as I said earlier, the building berth, I'm getting slightly mixed up with my terms, berth, basin, but the building berth for the Queen Mary and the QE2 was just sort of there on the other side of this very wide walkway here, pointing in that direction towards the mouth of the Black Cart water. And there was a few of these building berths with sloping ramps that the boats would be launched down in an unfinished state. You know, once they were launched, they were then brought here, certainly in the case of the Queen Mary and the QE2, for fitting out and finishing. And you can perhaps also see behind me the building work. There's an awful lot of building work taking place in Clydebank just now, and that is one of the reasons that I wanted to come back. Before now, they had a slight sort of walkway by the River Clyde just behind the camera that ran quite near where those angled building berths were. But they have really extended that so that it goes round this basin, and there's just goes, I don't know how far it goes a long way that way, and I've just seen a cyclist coming out from somewhere near the Titan crane. I might explore that, because that may well be a walkway that I didn't know about. But I'm certainly going to finish the video by sort of walking west way into the distance. And from what I understand, and I could be wrong, but I think most of the building that is taking place is for housing. There may be the odd building for commercial use taking place. And I think a lot of the housing is, what would you call it? It's housing that's going to be organised by housing associations, and it's there for just for what you might term ordinary people like myself and others, people who maybe can't afford to buy a house these days, and that's really got to be a good thing. Although, as I said in a previous video, I do wonder what all the people who will live in these houses will work at, because it's a simple fact that there is not the same level of employment these days than there used to be. Automation is, whether we like it or not, taking over. And you know, governments keep banging on about work, jobs, making us all feel a bit guilty, maybe not working. But I think governments have to perhaps get to grips with the fact, and they will already know this, that there isn't the same number of jobs available, and that as automation increases and more people are struggling to find work, governments will have to figure out how to support people who, in some cases, may spend their whole life in the absence of meaningful employment. That is the way it's going to go, whether you like it or not. And society in general will have to try and figure out how people can live their whole lives in a fulfilling way without a job. And you know, I'm an old guy now. I'll be reasonably content if I get another 10 years out of life before popping my clogs, but I'm just glad I'm not a young person, because I don't see a happy future the way that the work market is going. It's always nice to have a view of hills. Basically what they've done here is transformed what was a very large area of derelict ground that used to be John Brown's shipyard into an attractive area that you would very much want to visit, hang around in, and sort of explore, you know. And I'm quite envious of whoever is lucky enough to get some of the housing that's getting built there, because you just have great views of this part of the River Clyde. And it would be nice perhaps also to see some bars and restaurants springing up with outside seating, again just to make use of this area. And I have to say, the whole area here just feels nice. And I know that sounds a bit naff, but it actually means everything. Absolutely everything. You get a good feeling about a place, so you want to come back. Obviously the bit of land directly behind me is still wasteland and not been built on yet, but I dare say it will be. And there's other bits just over there. But yeah, you just get the feeling that Clydebank's perhaps starting to get its act together, and surfacing from what was a very bleak episode in its past. The demise of singers in the shipyard, and just a period of mass unemployment apart from anything else. So I'm going to kind of finish the video by kind of exploring a wee bit. There's a roadway that heads west up there. I don't know where it comes out. You know, it's branched back a new road. I don't know where it goes. And also there's a walkway here, right beside the tank and crane, that looks as if it runs along the side of the river. Again, it's branched back new. I don't know where it goes. How exciting is that? I just love exploring, you know. I'm Eddie Burns. Take care. Until the next time, I'll see you again.
Singers, and then there was John Brown, who turned a bit of countryside into a bustling town, with streets are full of workers and bars are full of men. Yay, yippee-yi-yay. And down beside the river, a forest full of cranes, and every street and corner was full of screaming wains, who grew up in the shipyard or in the factory. Yay, yippee-yi-yay. But now the work is over, the tenements no more, and many vacant faces that look a little sore. They're building in the shipyard and building by